It is exactly 3 o'clock.
All righty. So, this is Jane Moran, Chair of the Upper Charles Committee, and thanks everybody who is able to join us. And I will call this meeting to order as we do have a quorum. So, having said that, we are being recorded for everyone to know. And, if you have we are going to go through, a review and a vote on, 2022 Mass Trails Grant application. I expect Matt Chase to join us at oh, there you are, Matt.
Hi,
Hey,
good
Matt.
afternoon.
Hey,
Hello.
Ken.
Afternoon.
Yeah.
So I think I'll open the meeting with asking our engineers, both Dave and Matt, to explain where we are in this process of Mass Trails applications and where we hope to go forward, knowing that there is this second round going forward. So I think before we go any further, I think you have to know where we stand and what are some of the options that we have.
Yeah, I'll go through that. I'll go through the CPC and the current application that's in, as well as, what Mass Trails has sent out, to the public for accepting additional applications this same cycle. The CPC, as you folks know, the request, you voted to take no action. The funds that were requested through CPC were going to be for final design of segments 5 and 6. Basically. There were other stipulations within the vote that would require X, Y, Z to be done before any of those funds could be spent. But again, those funds were requested to finish the design of section 5, which is the campus connector, because that's already designed preliminarily through a previous Mass Trails grant. So we're at about a 25% design standpoint, preliminary design for that section. And for final design of trail system in the Irvin Tadaro property. With the vote of taking no action, it's just affected that request. It didn't affect the Mass Trails grant application that was submitted a few months ago. That grant application was to do preliminary evaluation design of trails in the Irvin Tadaro property. That's segment 6, is to evaluate and coordinate with the schools as they're designing their new school, what kind of trail system, trail network, whatever, different options you could have within the Irvin Tadaro property. That's the current grant application that your folks submitted, and they're still reviewing. Based on the information coming out of Mass Trails that they're asking for additional applications, probably assume there's a good chance to probably get the first grant. What Mass Trails has told me, I called and talked to Amanda Lewis. She was our program manager for the last grant. They have funds left in this cycle, so they're asking for folks to submit additional grant applications. They raised the limit to 500 for applications. For those communities that have already submitted an application and we're still waiting, can submit another application. The total of the 2 awards, if we get the first one, can't exceed the 500. So there's a total value per community for this cycle for $500,000. And there was I think they're looking at focusing on shared use paths for this additional grant application was what Amanda told me. What that means from a Mass Trails standpoint, I'm not exactly sure, but that's what she told me. So I hope that's a good summary. Are there any questions about the CPC, the first grant application, or what Mass Trails has told me, what will accept for a second application from Hopkins?
How much was our first application?
114, I think it is, or 112, I'm sorry, one of those two, 112 or 114.
Yeah,
You got
112.
388,
112, so maybe, right.
so additional 388, okay.
And I'm unclear right now if it's one grant, two grants, three, how many more grants from Hopkinton could they accept?
They don't have enough grants to use up their money. They'll take 10 grant, 10.
Possibly.
Yeah,
That's
right.
something I can ask Amanda if you request.
So just a thought, I know it's too late, but CPC could have voted to take no action on the segment 6 part, but change the amount for segment 5 and still have an article for segment 5, probably, right? Does that make sense?
Sure, if a CPC can change a request, it might have to have come from,
Well, they would, so,
might not have come from you folks to.
Yeah, right, right.
Looks like that.
but it doesn't matter, it's too late,
That's
right?
gonna be approved. Let's not mess with it.
Yeah, no, I know.
They voted and that CPC item is kind
I know.
of off the warrant.
It's just a thought.
Good question though, Bob. Does anyone from the audience have a question?
Hello? No.
No.
I'm not sure they can hear us.
Yeah, they hear us.
Does everybody hear us? Okay, we got a thumbs up? Look at that, his hand is detached from his arm.
We'll make a good-
How about
a good
Matt?
chairman
Yep,
someday.
I can hear you.
Would
Yeah, I
Matt
can hear
like to add some more information or
Yeah, Dave's
additional
spot on.
thoughts?
Dave was spot on with his summary for the first application.
I was gonna say for the first time.
Spot on. Spot on is good. All right, so that brings us to our current conversation, which is to review and vote on a second Mass Trails grant application, which, after hearing your summary, actually might change a little bit.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, in that, it may not be for a total 500, but there's room for something else additionally, perhaps, besides, segment 5?
Yeah, I mean, it's up to, that's what the discussion kind of needs to be.
Okay, so if there was additional funding, perhaps, maybe, if my numbers are correct.
388.
388. Could I entertain some discussion from the committee about where those potential funds could be spent if we were so lucky to receive them? Because we're not really even sure about that, correct?
The first grant?
Well, over and above the first grant.
Yeah, I know the total for any.
The total
For
would
a
be
community
500.
could be 500.
And so there might be 114 that we spend on the first grant.
112.
112, sorry.
Nope.
Let me get this correct. 112. So that could leave a possible up to 388. So, thoughts from the committee? Eli? And then,
I want to suggest that we apply for the segment between the proposed Marathon School site off East Main Street, north to Hopkinton State Park.
do you
That
marathon school?
Oh, center school. Center school.
International Marathon
the
Museum?
marathon,
No.
the Marathon Museum site, excuse me,
Okay,
off of East Main Street, the proposed Marathon Museum site, north to Hopkinton State Park. That area is self-contained in that you can walk or ride from East Main Street to the park. It doesn't cross any major roads. And while we haven't reached a formal agreement with Tennessee Gas, we have verbal agreement, and that could be part of the application. And there's no one living there. And as far as I know, there's no controversy about that segment of the trail.
all good points.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Eric agrees with
I
that.
agree with that too, except I'll make another suggestion, maybe it's, that how far can we go if we use this on the campus trail connector? That is the part from Hayden Row to the center trail.
I'm sorry, what, I don't know what you,
So the second option or another option might be the campus trail connector. But I don't know how far that would take us on the campus trail connector where we can do pre-design on the section you're talking about, right? How much is preliminary design on this?
Well, I think that's a good question for either Matt or Dave.
Preliminary design on what section?
On the section that Eli's talking about.
I'm not sure I'm not sure we developed a full preliminary evaluation on that, have we, Ed, Matt?
Does Matt have any idea?
It was a very high level. We never dove into it. We just carried like a couple 100,000, I think, but we didn't dive. It's such a long segment that I think we even talked about potentially designing it in phases, but
We can.
Yeah, no, it was a separate segments, but you know, could we get the ground survey out of it, you know, and then,
Some.
Yeah,
oh,
I
and then the preliminary, and then the layout at least? So I would agree also with Eli and.
Yeah, I can,
Proceeding on that.
Matt and I can work on it these last couple of days and get something to you folks on a number, so you.
How about, anyone else from the audience? Out there? Bob,
Why, Eli, do you start at the Marathon Museum and not at East Main Street? Or,
I think it's the one and the same, but
same.
I guess my question.
Well, it's not the same because you have to cross East.
Yeah, it's not, it
Street.
doesn't include the Methodist property crossing East Main. It's
Let's
just
start at the
from-
Methodist property.
Just from the northerly side of East Main,
Yes,
right?
and
Yeah,
I do not know how much the engineering cost would be for that area.
Well, that's why, so these guys will
They'll tell us.
just give some thought to it
yeah, so,
and not interfere with the Marathon Museum proposal, right, obviously?
correct. Here's another thought. To have a shared use path, we have to have a beginning, start, and we have to have a connecting spot.
Yes, that's my.
Yep, so if we, for instance, started at Hopkinton State Park, which is essentially what Eli is saying, but it's in reverse, and work our way south,
Yeah.
if alls we have is X amount of money, which the engineers will be able to figure, even if we have to stop at Legacy Farms North, that would give us a connecting point, because the sidewalks actually go, as other people have mentioned in the past, it's already part of the Upper Charles Trail going north to south. That 8-foot wide path through Legacy Farms is already a shared use path, just by definition. So we could essentially start Hopkinton State Park with the X amount of money, which we don't know how far it will get us. If we started there, if we only got to the Legacy Farms North, if we got beyond, I think that would be fantastic. We could go through the open space and Legacy Farms down to the Marathon Museum.
So you want to go downhill and not uphill.
I do, because it gives us a starting point. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
Through the chair, Elaine,
Mhm.
do you have any idea what the schedule in the International Museum is? I don't. You don't, okay. So I can try to,
Those, if they ever get money to build it, they'll start.
Yeah.
They do have some preliminary
They
site
do,
plans. that
they've
you
been
can-
over
yeah.
there with their engineers. They're doing all kinds of studies
Yeah.
and,
well, we'll try to, reach out to Tim and see if I can get some preliminary information on a schedule, on when that might, progress further, when they're looking for an end date possibly.
There's probably some property information that they have.
yes, Jim.
So we can't do the segment that, let's say, is from Legacy Farms North to East Main because there's nothing on East Main to access?
We have to have a beginning point. We have to have connectivity.
There is a sidewalk on East Main now, but that doesn't, I know that's not the multi-use.
Correct. I mean, I'm not sure the engineers could satisfy that, but we're in negotiation.
So we couldn't even do any work on it, any design
No,
work or anything
but-
like that?
you
Okay.
could build like a parking lot, like a little parking area as part of the trailhead for that. You just need a trailhead for access.
Yeah, we would have to cross the road to get to Methodist property, but again, that would be a long stretch, I think, starting from there going north. We might end up with a path to nowhere. But if we started at if we started at Hopkins State Park and came downhill, as Eric so eloquently pointed out, at least we would encounter the shared use path.
Yeah, okay, I got it. Good answer.
It's a thought. What do some of the other members think about that?
Can you guys hear me? I can't tell.
Yes, go ahead, Eli. I mean,
Ken.
sorry, Ken.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea to start at Hopkins State Park as well. And I'd also like to point out that although I do like the idea of connecting to Main Street, the Marathon Museum guys are going to work that out for us for getting off at Main Street. And I don't think we should waste any money on that yet, so long as they know that we want our trail to go by them.
Good
But-
point.
Another place that it's going to be valuable though is just on the kind of southwest side of Legacy Farms North is an area which is blocked off by kind of overgrown shrubbery, and that's an important part to do. Further south than that, when you get up to closer to Tennessee Gas, the roads are actually in good shape, and so they're passable right now. They're hilly. And you have to go around that retention pond in the middle, but it's still rather easily traversable. So the least traversable parts have to do with just southwest of Legacy Farms North, and I'd say the approach to Hopkins State Park is also important, although that is in Ashland. I don't know whether that's a complication.
When we spoke with the people from DCR, they did not see it as a complication because they actually own the property. Hopkinton State Park, DCR owns the
Yep,
property.
Fair enough.
So, I'm sure whatever that was or is, they would work that out. All good conversations, yes.
So just following up on that, is there a portion of, the trail doesn't go what is that? It's not Wilson. What's that street that goes into Ashland?
Wilson?
No, is that Wilson?
No, there's
On the
another
reservoir?
one when it's in Ashland
Well, where the trail would come,
Street.
okay, so where the trail would come out to House Street, is that actually in Ashland?
Yes.
And I asked because Concom there were some violations up there, that's public record. And stormwater.
Right.
So the stormwater was flowing across House Street, we had Ashland Concom involved also. So maybe they have jurisdiction, even though
I'm sure they do.
they may have jurisdiction just because it's DCR, yeah.
Well, as soon as we cross a town road, I'm sure they would
Yeah.
have
I was
something
just
to
wondering
say
if-
about it. But again, that's what the engineers are here for. They're gonna run interference for us.
And through you, Jane, Jim, Ashland Concom, I believe was involved because of the runoff from
Yeah,
the development in Hopkinton. Was
Yeah.
from
polluting-
Hopkinton,
Right, was
to
polluting
Ashland.
into Ashland. So,
Right. That's right.
folks reached out in Ashland and Ashland reached out to us, so it's kind of,
So I was just wondering,
it's DCR property, so it's not town of Ashland property, so we'd have
Yeah.
to deal with,
Excluding the town road, you're right.
correct, would have to cross the street.
okay, thank you.
Eric?
You ready for a motion?
Wait,
Floor is yours.
I just want to point out the deadline, the filing deadline is just a few weeks off. So we need to decide who's going to work on the grant application. I cannot take the lead at this point. I'm busy on other stuff.
Yeah, Dave's raising his hand. He's volunteering. Dave and Matt, yeah.
And we could coordinate with you, right, still? I always like have you involved, or you don't want to be involved at all?
I'll be involved, but I just can't be the lead.
Yes, Peter.
I was gonna just be glad, but a couple of things. One, the Ashland property, or the trail is planned to go through Boy Scout property in Ashland, as I understand it.
that's
Talking
there, that's
about
Ashland.
Ashland.
Right, so what
Up in
that, but the
Charles
Boy
Trail.
Scouts have no desire to give this property to the trail. From what I've heard from the select board over
That's
in
not
Ashland.
us, though.
Correct, but if we're planning on connecting to a trail in Ashland and the trail in Ashland isn't going to exist, that means this becomes a spur trail to Hopkins State Park, and that's all. And that's fine.
Well, no, but the rest of that's up to Ashland, whether they want to continue the Upper Charles Trail.
Right, but what I'm saying is the idea of this is a regional trail that connects not just to the edge of Ashland, but has a potential to be a loop trail. If you want that loop trail, what clearly is available is to go out the Calais property, connect up to the existing shared use path that runs along Legacy Farm Road, Legacy South, and go over to Ashland Reservoir, because they're definitely going to be able to go through that area. Pretty unlikely they'll be able to go through the Boy Scout property. So that's one thing. So the other thing is that Jane and I met with Norman last night briefly. The idea being that perhaps we would do a shared approach to this grant, because you probably don't know, but the Trails Committee called Amanda Lewis, talked to her about it, and we have intended to basically resubmit our 2020 application. And that connects from Center Trail down to West Main Street. And what this committee did actually helped us out, because in those big maps that you showed at your last workshop, it shows that trail as a spur off of the Upper Charles Trail. So it becomes part of the Upper Charles Trail network. That trail has the benefit of, as I say, being a spur, being part of that. We have an application ready to go. So we have basically 2 weeks left, but we have an application that's in place. We also need to apply for that grant this year because we have $75,000 of CPC money that we're planning on already using on that. So that's our contribution. You folks, I didn't hear any talk about where the, roughly $80,000 of contribution is going to come from, but that's something you would need. So if we're going to work together, it seems like working on that project is the way to go, not picking some other section of your trail.
Okay, so I just, before I get to Jim and Eric, I do have some information in regards to Ashland. And that I spent quite a bit of time talking with some Ashland selectmen about the route going through Legacy Farms south toward Ashland to the reservoir. And they would have to go down Olive Street, which is a very narrow rural road, heavily residential on both sides. And it did not appear as that would happen. We also do not know what other paths are viable for the Ashland Upper Charles Trail coming through from the trail that they've already started their trail coming down through the MTA station and coming down through the reservoir. So they are making impact slowly but surely, kind of like what we are. They're negotiating pieces here or there. We have enough challenges here in Hopkinton. I don't want to get involved in Ashland and how they're going to solve their problems, but I do know that they are working just as hard as we are to come up with other alternatives. And we cannot rule out the Hopkinton State Park, even if it takes Ashland longer to get there. I know DCR is very, very excited about Hopkinton Upper Charles Trail landing in the Hopkinton State Park because it gives them a huge amount of additional potential traffic into their park. And that's what they're looking for, to get their numbers up. And not only that, but it also has the benefit of being within walking distance to the T station. So that's one reason why they're very excited about that. And they're neither Ashland or Hopkinton, the DCR, or us are giving up on that. So I think that this committee's choice to start at Hopkinton State Park is quite viable, because as Ken pointed out, we've been talking about this connection for years and years and years, even before we started talking about other approaches. This is an opportunity that just kind of popped up. So it sounds like the committee wants to go that route. But now I'll turn it back over to, I think, first Jim and then Eric, because they both had something to say. And if other people are out there trying to raise their hands, please do it again, because I missed it. Oh, I think Barry wants to participate as well.
Okay, I'll yield my time to Eric first.
No, I
You want to be?
want to talk about the motion, so that needs to be
Okay.
last.
All
Okay.
right, so then a couple points. One, our goal is to end at the state park. What Ashland, and that's a terminus or whatever you want to call it, right, from the trail. What Ashland does, if anything, is really not part of what we're doing, because we may be held up for 50 years if we do that. And the second thing is the segment you're talking about Chamberlain, the so-called Chamberlain segment? You said Center Trail.
Center Trail by the Loop Road, through the Chamberlain Street extension, down to West Main Street.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, so far, we haven't identified that as a segment of the multi-use trail.
No.
You're not talking about a multi-use,
Spur, it'd be part of the spur.
well, it could be a spur, but it's not part of the main line. So I don't think that that's appropriate for us.
It's
Right
identified,
now, we could talk about it in the future, but I don't think it's appropriate right now, right?
although it's identified in your map as a spur to this trail, and I think the idea is connectivity throughout town.
It is, from spurs to the main line.
Peter, I'm going to address it when I talk.
Okay, so Barry.
Forget me.
Oh, thank you, Jim. That was very good stuff. Barry, I think I saw you
Yeah,
trying to
it
get
sounds
in.
like, it sounds like, yeah, there's a lot of info. And I might be a little bit, unsure of the comments. So just to clarify, we're talking about a proposal that would be basically legacy farms only, right? And down to the park and down to the museum. And then Peter's comment was, well, if Ashland's never gonna get to the state park, you don't have a regional Upper Charles Trail Committee, trail rather. And so, I mean, that's what we've been talking for years with Ashland, that's where they wanted to meet up with us, right?
I agree, yes.
So I'm kind of, I don't know what to recommend to bring it all together. Like, we want to be part of the regional. And is there any, I mean, but we don't know what Ashland's ever gonna do, right?
No, I think we just have to keep moving forward. It could be that if we move forward in this direction, it spurs Ashland and gives them impetus to continue forward with their path to connect to Ashland State Park. I do, as you say, we've been talking with them for years and years, and that's their preferred route. Jim?
So just quickly, if we let the thinking of Ashland's future get in our way, then we might as well not do anything, because everything ends at some point. That's the connector to some other segment, from one segment to another.
I agree.
So we would never go from Center School because we don't know what the hell Ashland's doing.
I
We would never go from Main Street because we don't know what the hell Ashland's doing. I don't think we can do that.
agree.
So we need to proceed like you said.
Okay, Barry, go ahead.
Sorry, but what Jim's saying too, I know, what if you modify the direction? And I know that the TCMC, I think, is doing work behind Center School, right?
That's different though.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, it's going off in a different direction. It really
But
is
if you-
not our trail.
Right, but doesn't it potentially lead down to the Calais property and the other?
No.
easement?
No, it does
No.
not.
It goes, it's
It goes down the hill and hangs a right. And the property, if you go down the hill and you go left, you run into private property, which we're negotiating, which may not ever happen or may happen. We just do not know.
Yeah.
So TCMC is, they're doing a great job and they're going, is it south? South,
Yeah, that's why I was thinking that if we could,
completely different,
if we
not have,
did, it-
doesn't
if
have
we-
anything to do with us.
I was thinking if we went from the Marathon Museum back to Center School and have that engineered, taking into account what TCMC is doing now.
No, because again, if we run into private property where it's under negotiation and then we're not there yet. That's why
Yeah,
coming from Hopkinton State Park south, we're not sure how far that will get us, but it will get us somewhere.
I didn't realize it was still under negotiation because I saw it on the agenda for CPC last week.
That's like forever and eternity. I see it every year, all the time, and I'm not sure why, but
No, those
right,
two,
it's nowhere. Eli, I saw
Okay.
your hand up.
Yeah, we can't control what Ashland does. I mean, I agree with Peter, there are problems there. But the project from the museum to Hopkinton Park stands on its own and has value irrespective of whatever happens with Ashland. And my other question, Peter, is how much of a grant do you want to apply for? Because we agree there's a limit to what the town can get. Do you know what your grant request would be?
We're probably looking for 150,000, something in that range, 150 to 200.
That's very doable, I would think. Is there's someone on the screen that I do not recognize? I'm just wondering if they want to have a comment.
Darlene Hayes?
Oh, Darlene, welcome.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything?
Ken,
No,
has his
it's
hand up.
Ken. It's Ken. He
Ken
thinks
is under
so.
Darlene Hayes, all right.
Okay,
All right, Ken.
yeah,
Yeah, well, my next comment, I can't tell whether my hand's raised or not from my screen. Sorry about that.
Darlene, his hand get raised under Darlene.
Yes.
yeah.
It looks like
Everything is
it
coming up
looks
in that
backwards
corner.
sometimes.
Oh,
So-
it's the hand comes up on the right.
Right.
Okay.
Darlene's everywhere. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my comment is simply that it would be good if so I agree with what other people have said about Hopkinton State Park. Yeah, we can't not connect to Hopkinton State Park because of anything that Ashland may or may not be able to do. And I think it is a worthy target all by itself, though it's not a regional it's not an inter-town path other than you could argue it goes to Southborough through the train station though.
Mhm.
But the other thing, though, is in favor of what Peter was talking about. I do think that Hopkinton should be making moves so that in the future our trails grants appear coordinated to one another. And if there's any way that we can broaden our application to at least give some money to TCMC now with this grant cycle, and it might make it easier for us to get more grant money in the future so that we provide a united front to the Trails Grant people. That I think is a worthwhile goal. How to best accomplish that, I'm not sure I know, but
Cynthia.
That's a good point. Madam Chair, may I suggest we take Eric's motion so that we could have our discussion
Okay.
about that and see where
That's fair
the
enough.
motion discussion, which I expect relates to Eli's grant question.
I have several comments and then a motion.
Okay,
Sorry, I opened that can of worms.
right, Cynthia.
Well,
You and I are gonna talk.
we can talk about Ashland till we fall over, but I don't remember Milford coming to us and telling us where they were gonna stop the trail.
Good point.
And we have worked around to connect to it, so may Ashland enjoy the same happiness we went through. The things Peter's working on have just a really exciting opportunity to make this one big trail complex. And we now have money we didn't know we had. And I'm planning on the motion that I make to ask this committee to bless Jane with the authority to sit down with Peter and work out a way that we can share in this money and share our trails coming together, or at least using the best parts of all of it. I don't know how 388, but if it's all part of one trail essentially, it's all 388. So, but rather than keep coming back and trying to sit here and say, well, go here, go there, that'll never work in the time frame we have. Therefore, my motion will be to authorize Jane to speak for us in a negotiation and that be binding on us. She knows more about this trail than anybody I've met. And as far as the motion itself, I don't have it written down, but the motion that I want to make will be to start this bid process at Ashland, at Hopkinton State Park, work south, and at the same time begin in the ball field area, loop area of the schools and work toward this way. So we have two, essentially the same thing, trying to get to the middle.
Oh, that's interesting.
How that would work, but I mean, it would look like we know what the heck we're doing.
So our trail could essentially come down, even if we only get to Legacy Farm North, it would get us to that 8-foot pathway that would get us to 135. Peter's Trail would start at the ball fields, travel north and get to West Main Street. Potentially, in theory, we could take the sidewalk and get up to the center of town.
Yikes.
Yeah,
To
that's what I see is coming,
conceiving
yeah, come
conceptually.
straight into town and then one big triangle, but it ties the whole thing together.
Right, and it fits with the connectivity study that
Connectivity
The big-
together.
somehow.
It's the 4 mile, magic 4 mile.
Yeah.
That's-
So now I'm gonna flip this over to Matt and Dave and say, is this something that's workable?
Get back to us. Get back to us.
Okay, the ball's in your court.
I mean,
Get
we'd
back
like to, obviously, Peter mentioned maybe 150, there's 380 something, I think, out there
388.
for an application. And I think it would be a good idea,
Fine.
like, well,
130,
Yeah, we
112.
We got 114 and 112,
out there in an application, I wouldn't recommend
messing with
sending
that.
an application in that might mess around with that one.
So be for 388.
And so, if you,
Whatever
with
that,
Jane and Peter, we can figure out, how much of, if the committee wants to do section 1, or if they want to do
We'll just prioritize the sections and then pay for
section
it that
5,
way.
maybe, and you could, again, that wasn't brought up other than the beginning, set the campus connector. I don't know if people mentioned that.
yes, we did.
To the
That's
schools.
segment 5, the campus connector. Is
connects
that
to-
in the
We're not
112?
doing anything.
Yeah,
with
but
that.
that's where, yeah, we can't do it.
No,
Okay.
that's across, we're not crossing the street. We're not going over to 6 and 7.
No.
5,
About 5,
yeah, we're just talking about 5.
right.
So would 5 be doable under that 112?
5, we had a harder number for, was 140, I think, Matt, something like that,
For what,
Yeah, it's like
completion of
120.
design?
to finish the
For-
design of
For the
5.
final design, yeah, it was
Right.
157, I think. I think if
Like,
you,
We've had that problem. We
I
don't
would
have
say-
to deal with that.
I would say if I could, Jane,
But we,
if Jane and Peter are gonna have discussions after this, we'd be part of that to be able to.
yeah, we couldn't do anything without these guys.
You're gonna be
Yeah,
a
right.
integral part of it.
Matt can't escape either.
We don't
So-
have numbers for everything that has been talked about tonight.
Bottom line is we got 388, we got 2 ways we're coming
Right.
and we'll figure it out. We're not gonna worry about other things we have grants for or anything else. We're spending 388 and we're tying a major trail project together regardless of what we call it. So it's an opportunity that almost like the gods have, for some reason, blessed us with, and
Yeah, it's once
will
in a
end up much, much better finished product from both standpoints. So,
Yeah, I mean, obviously Matt and I are here just to support whatever direction.
Okay,
You guys
so
wanna go.
how do you like that idea, Peter? Is that something that you're willing to work with?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And so we have a motion on the floor.
I think we need to redo it.
Get the motion.
I think we need to redo the motion.
Barry has his
Can I
hand
can I
raised.
give it a shot?
sure,
Or you go ahead, restate the motion.
I'm good at concepts, not.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we authorize Jane.
Hey, Jim,
to-
Barry has his hand raised. I don't want to cut you
Oh.
off. But yeah,
Oh,
I
sorry.
don't know if Barry had something to say. Sorry.
I'd like Jim to get it out first and then I'll be part of the discussion. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll get right
So,
back to you, Barry.
I'll make a motion that we authorize Jane to work with Peter,
And the
Boy,
engineers,
Dave Del Torio,
Chase.
Matt Chase, to what? To determine how much each segment that we talked about, or the three segments we talked about.
No,
Evaluate a consolidated application, something.
Consolidate, yeah, let's keep.
Well,
it
did we already
broad.
vote on the application? We did. So
we haven't
Yeah.
voted on
All
anything.
right, fine, you take over. Ask Barry what he wants. See what Barry had in mind.
Well, I was,
Barry, then we'll ask
I was
Peter.
Like that,
I was
okay?
gonna suggest
Pick up where
that
you left off.
picking up with
I doubt it.
Eric's words is to authorize Jane and work with the town engineer and contract engineer with Peter to optimize the town from taking advantage of the latest round of Mass Trails grant.
Sounds good.
No,
No,
concept, the important thing, that's very good and that's part of it. But to authorize Jane to negotiate for the committee and her decision to be binding on the committee.
Be binding.
Okay.
Binding, without coming back and going through this
yeah,
again.
You don't need
without
a-
coming,
you
we
don't
don't
need a
have
vote.
time to come back to the committee.
You won't need a
Yes.
vote. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so can I
Second
second, or you want to second
in the motion.
as amended?
Well,
All right, that's one, let's do this in two motions. That's one motion. Why don't you vote on this motion? Jane,
Should I read what I have?
No,
any further?
You should go.
go ahead. Sorry.
we vote on the motion. Then I'll make
Yes.
another motion.
Hey,
And that's to authorize Jane to work with the parties mentioned to develop a consolidated application, authorizing her to negotiate on behalf of the committee to proceed and make necessary decisions.
I'll second it.
okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have a second? Who's,
Yeah, second.
okay, all in favor?
Motion.
No, Eric made
I
a
made,
Amendment.
age before something. Before
All right.
slightly less. age.
Moving right along.
Yeah, so do we have a vote? All in
Any
favor?
discussion?
aye,
Aye.
And do I have to do a roll call for
Right.
Kathy?
Vote members.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna have to do a roll call. Let me get my list here.
We'll call that.
Eric, how do you vote?
yes,
Ken Parker,
Yes.
Eli Post,
yes,
Barry Rosenblum,
Yes.
Bob Snyder,
Yes.
Cynthia.
Yes.
Jim Cirillo.
Yes.
Fran is not here. Brian's not here. Peter's here. Jane is a yes. Okay, so the motion carries and so moved.
okay, another motion. I make a motion that, Jane representing Upper Charles and Peter representing his committee, lay out a preliminary direction to the engineers on how to proceed to connect both paths, one from Hopkinton State Park and the other from the ball field on the loop road.
Does that work for you, Peter?
I think so.
All right.
Do I have a second?
I'll
I'm
second.
not sure what you just said.
Okay, Ken seconds. Is there a discussion? Bob?
Yeah, we are charged with building a spinning trail from Milford really to the Hopkins State Park. So, I want to make sure that we keep that as our priority. That's all I'm asking.
I think this motion does that in that, we're doing two things. One, we're doing our spine trail. But two, we're making the best use of available state funds in the grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a result, we're just taking on a little extra happiness.
I think what it also
I
does,
agree with Bob.
yeah. No, I think you're spot on, because this job's, is a spine road. But what it's also doing is showing an opportunity to work collectively with our fellow Trails Committee so that we can get this all, work together to have as many trails possible for as many citizens as possible with as many opportunities.
Mhm.
One trail is not going to be perfect for everybody, but multiple different various types of trails can be great for our whole community.
In addition, part of Peter's Trail might become part of our spine trail. Who knows?
Yes, we
That's
just
what
don't
we're-
know.
That's what we're coming up with here.
Through the chair?
Yes, Barry?
Yeah, sorry about it, but what popped in the head thinking was, what about the matching funds for this new application proposed? Where would I think Peter said he's got CPC funds in the current warrant. And if if these grants are issued to us, and are we gonna be able to cover our match?
We'll negotiate it, Barry.
Yeah, I think we'll work with the engineers on that and also, various funding sources.
For you, Jane, I
Okay,
guess,
Mr.
the funding sources that have been
Folks that my
identified
text
for
never
the,
went through to you. I still have the spinning wheel of death. So I just wanted to see if we were still meeting at 4, if you want to do a little later, if you want to do
so Darlene, I
later in
think
the
you're,
week.
Darlene, you may want to mute.
Thanks. I'll talk to you later.
Oh, she's not, I was wondering what the hell she was talking about.
Oh,
Go
good
ahead.
catch. I have no
The
idea.
sources, Upper Charles Trail Committee has a budget, an annual budget, as well as, the engineering department has a engineering and architectural budget that we work with. So those were the funds that were identified, for the grant applications.
Between
Okay.
what Peter has, what we have, and
What I have.
Norman has, and what you have, we'll make it work.
What I have and you have.
Okay,
Eli?
We don't have a map in front of us, but I can't picture the linkage between the Marathon Museum and the ball field. They're in different parts of town.
No, we would have to write it up to say the sidewalks.
Yep.
I think Peter and I and the engineers got that covered.
Okay.
Figure it out.
Anyone else?
Guys, can I just say for the record, I retract my earlier comments to the committee about Peter's suggestion, because I jumped the gun and didn't listen to the rest of it. You're forgiven. Thank you. Appreciate
I don't even, it was so far long ago, I don't even remember what
it.
it
Yeah,
was.
no, well, I remember.
Okay, anyone else out there? Darlene, Ken, Barry, Michelle, Matt? I don't know who else is out there. Okay, so I think the discussion is over. Are we ready for a vote?
Yes.
All right, so I'll do a roll call again. Eric Sonnet, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ken Parker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Eli
Yes.
Post,
Yes.
Barry Rosenblum,
yes,
Bob Snyder,
Yes.
Cynthia Esthemer,
Yes.
Jim Cirillo,
Yes.
Jane Moran is a yes as well.
Good.
This comes to Eric's favorite part of the meeting. No, we have minutes to
We have
approve.
minutes.
So I hope everyone got a chance to read the minutes. I thought Elaine, as always, did an excellent job on all of them. Barry seems to think that he found a typo
Oh,
in one of
no,
them, which I couldn't find. so
not
maybe
in
Barry
Elaine,
will find that.
Elaine's minutes.
That was in the March 16th minute.
Yeah, evidently. I couldn't find it though.
No, it was
But if you can identify it, Barry, go for it.
April 6th, paragraph 2, second from the last sentence. It says zone and trial location.
Ah,
Instead of trail. I was told, I missed it, but.
I love it.
Barry.
Good catch, Barry.
Some days it feels like a trial.
All right, anything else? So all in favor of accepting the minutes of, okay, let me get this right, March 16, April 6th, and April 13th. As,
So moved.
with
Which
the,
one's amended?
As amended.
4-6.
yeah,
So
no,
moved as amended.
April 6th, that
Uh-huh.
was, there was one typo in April 6th. As amended, so I hear a motion to
Well,
approve
just
as
the
amended.
chair, I was absent for one of the meetings.
You can still
Is
vote.
it
on it.
appropriate to vote
You can vote.
as a block? Sir,
I don't know, Elaine.
Yes.
I do.
Okay.
appropriate.
Okay.
Oh,
I
you-
read them twice.
Okay, so
You just don't know
all
if that
in
was-
favor, and we will do the roll call again. If I can find my list. Eric Sonic, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ken Parker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Eli Post.
Yes.
Barry Rosenblum.
Yes,
Bob Snyder.
Yes.
Cynthia Esthemer.
Yes.
Jim Cirillo.
Yes.
Jane Moran is a yes.
and thank you, Elaine.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Mhm.
indeed.
It's a lot of hard work, and Bob knows for sure how much work
Thank you,
that is.
Yeah.
Yes,
I make a motion, we adjourn.
what a surprise. Do
Second.
I hear a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Do we have to do the roll call again?
I do.
Technically, yes, but
Technically, Eric
Since they could do it.
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Eli Post,
Yes.
Barry Rosenblum,
Yes,
Bob Snyder, Cynthia Esthemer,
Yes.
Jim Cirillo,
Yes.
Jane Moran is a yes. Okay,
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Dave.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Elaine, for.
Everybody,
Short meetings are good.
good job.
Easier to write.
Are good.
Thank you.
Now I get to take a nap before Concom.
I don't know.
The last two.
What?
the short
Concom tonight.
Oh, good, good. Yes, the last two were shorter.
All right.
Okay, so I would just like to ask Peter and Dave to hang out. I'll let you and come up with a date so we can get going on this, so we don't have much time. And I'm assuming you'll be able to get together with,
Okay, and next meeting date?
oh, we didn't do that. But it should be next Wednesday, right?
No.
First,
Calendar already. for next
Next Wednesday might even be.
oh,
Please,
Yeah.
you're gonna host a meeting for town meeting, I think.
no.
Don't do that.
The only thing I would recommend is that you post a meeting for 6 o'clock on Monday, May 2nd, in case we need a final vote on something before town meeting starts.
Okay.
Virtually all the committees do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, generally we do that. So should I email that to you? I'll email that.
Yeah, we'll have to, we can get a room. for you. We've got a block of rooms, so.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Good
thank
Jim.
you.
All right, thanks for everything.
Good. Yeah. I'm
Gonna
off.
write myself a note, right? So that would be May.
I would really love to sit down in the meeting with you and Peter and
Mhm.
Dave.
Sure.